Hello, everyone. Events around the world are unfolding at a dizzying pace. A building might be standing tall in the sky, but you just step away for a moment, and when you return, it's turned to dust. This isn't science fiction, it's what's happening in the Middle East. So what's new in the world today? Let's find out together. Talking about the Middle Eastern conflict, you may have noticed that interesting news channels have highlighted three major issues. First, Israel is still fighting Hamas in Gaza. Second, Israel is planning to retaliate against Iran after Iran launched 180 missiles, piercing Israel's defense systems. The third issue is the fierce conflict between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Starting with the first point, the Israel-Hamas conflict is well known. The mastermind behind Hamas's operations was finally eliminated by Israel about a week ago. Following this, the U.S. immediately urged Hamas to reconcile with Israel, release hostages, and bring an end to the conflict. However, Hamas refused, saying that if the head is cut off, another will grow in its place. They're firm about not releasing prisoners, and any negotiation with Israel depends on certain conditions. So, the fighting continues. Next, Iran is waiting to see the scale of Israel's retaliation so they can plan their response. However, the U.S. seems to be trying to prevent Israel from retaliating too strongly. As you know, President Biden's term is ending soon, with elections just days away in the U.S. If this constant conflict continues, it may be difficult for the Democrats to secure victory, as the public has grown weary of the conflicts under Biden's administration. To win support for the Democratic Party, the intensity of the conflict needs to be reduced. Therefore, the U.S. is encouraging Israel to avoid escalation. But Israel seems quite stubborn. Recently, disagreements between the U.S. and Israel have increased. The more the U.S. tries to calm things down, the more Israel escalates. For instance, in Lebanon, Hezbollah recently appointed a successor to their former leader, who was killed by Israel. Before the successor could fully take his position, Israel struck again, killing him as well. Israel has made it clear, anyone who becomes a leader of Hezbollah is at risk. Some joke that the most dangerous job in the world now isn't the U.S. presidency, but being a Hezbollah leader. Speaking of Hezbollah, Israel has been pushing deeper into southern Lebanon, with the death toll reaching 20,400, as Israel reports that they've struck 3,200 Hezbollah targets. Just 3 days ago, Israel announced an imminent strike on 2 Hezbollah-affiliated buildings and warned civilians to stay at least 500 meters away. Many journalists flocked to the scene to see what would happen, and exactly 40 minutes later, 2 precision bombs brought down the buildings, impressing many with the accuracy of modern weaponry. Some remark that Israel's precision is like knocking down a sandcastle from hundreds of kilometers away without disturbing nearby structures. However, in response, Hezbollah launched over 100 missiles and UAVs toward Israel. Despite Israel's state-of-the-art air defenses, occasionally missiles and UAVs do slip through. Recently, a UAV struck a civilian building near Israel's prime minister's residence. This breach exposed significant vulnerabilities in Israel's air defenses. Just a week earlier, another UAV entered an Israeli base undetected, killing dozens of soldiers who were caught completely off guard. In short, the fight between Israel and Hezbollah rages on. Israel is trying to drive Hezbollah out of southern Lebanon, while Hezbollah is searching for a new leader who hopefully won't face the same fate as the previous ones. Moving from the Middle East to the Korean Peninsula about a week ago, I warned viewers to be cautious about clickbait news on social media, especially TikTok, claiming that South Korea was mobilizing troops and aircraft against North Korea. There is tension, but there's no sign of active conflict. Even now, everything remains calm. Reports suggest that South Korea is ignoring North Korea's provocative actions. Recently, North Korea launched a trash-filled balloon that accidentally landed at the South Korean president's residence, a jab that South Korea responded to by broadcasting K-pop and democracy messages across the border to disrupt North Korean citizens' sleep. Meanwhile, South Korea has also issued serious warnings to North Korea for reportedly sending troops to support Russia in Ukraine. South Korea has stated that, if necessary, they would send troops to Ukraine to monitor North Korea's actions. Essentially, if North Korea supports Russia, South Korea would assist Ukraine. Reports indicate that the U.S. has observed at least 3,000 North Korean soldiers in Russia, while Ukraine's president claims there are 12,000 North Korean troops ready to fight in alongside Russia. Russia, however, denies any North Korean troops are involved And while North Korea initially denied this as well, they now vaguely suggest that sending troops to help Russia would be justified. If North Korean soldiers are confirmed on the battlefield in Ukraine, how will the world react? We'll have to wait and see, especially to understand the U.S. stance. The U.S. is in a state of transition, as President Biden will only be in office until January 2025, and after the upcoming election, there will be a shift in influence. In just 2 weeks, U.S. policies toward Ukraine could pivot dramatically, especially if Trump is elected. Trump's unpredictable nature could even end the Ukraine conflict within 24 hours, potentially requiring Ukraine to cede territory to Russia in exchange for peace. A NATO alliance under Trump could look very different as well. Who will lead the U.S. in 2 weeks? As we await this decision, let's also consider the recent diplomatic efforts in the Middle East. Recently, after the Iranian president and foreign minister visited neighboring countries seeking allies against Israel, these nations agreed not to allow Israel to use their airspace to attack Iran. Looking at the map, it's unclear how Israel would launch an airstrike on Iran without crossing over neighboring countries. So, will Israel attack Iran in retaliation? If so, they may need to fly over these countries' airspace, potentially sparking conflict with them, or Israel might resort to ballistic missiles, which wouldn't violate neighboring airspace since they travel through the atmosphere before returning to Earth. But Israel seems intent on an airstrike. Just 2 weeks ago, the U.S. transported numerous aircraft to Israel, including refueling planes, suggesting that Israel prefers an air assault over a missile strike. But now that nearby countries have restricted airspace, will Israel proceed regardless? Let's wait and see. Thank you for watching the video. Goodbye, and see you next time.